This is a K2 Storm Tracker weather alert.
We have declared a storm tracker weather alert. Fire danger off the charts at this hour. The wind picking up all over the state, combining with incredibly dry conditions to make the possibility of an out-of-control fire a very high possibility. Up to 80-mile-per-hour winds in the gorge, 50 here in Portland. Here's a live look at both areas we're monitoring tonight. Thanks for joining us for KATU News at 5 o'clock. I'm Deborah Now.
And I'm Lincoln Graves in for Steve Dunn tonight. We're bringing you team coverage on these dangerous fire conditions. Before we get to KATU's Allison Mechanic, who is live in Troutdale at a brush fire right now. You see an image of that fire there. We want to get the very latest from meteorologist Dave Selesky. Dave, a very dangerous night.
A very dangerous night. Next 24 hours are going to be critical across much of the Pacific Northwest. We've been seeing this thing ramping up all day long, and now it's beginning to arrive. At the top of the hour, we began under a high wind warning here in the metropolitan area. We're going to show you the current conditions now across the area. So here we have the Columbia River Gorge now in Hood River. You can see visibility very poor. This is all from wildfire smoke and again from dust being blown by these very strong winds. They're seeing winds now out of the east northeast about 26 miles an hour at this hour in Hood River. Here in Portland, similar conditions. You can see overhead. Reduced air quality, 89 the temperature. The wind speed now, sustained wind speed, not the gusts, are at 28 miles an hour out at PDX. Wind speeds we've seen so far across the area since midnight last night. Almost 50-mile-per-hour wind speeds up in Yakima, 45 for the Dalles. There's Spokane at 44. This is all moving down the gorge this evening and into the metropolitan area. We've been seeing wind speeds so far, peak gust at PDX of 37 miles an hour. Those winds will be ramping up for the rest of the afternoon and going in towards the evening hours. Take a look at this shot. This is a satellite view at about 11 o'clock this morning. You can see there's the Portland-Vancouver area. There's the Willamette Valley. Watch this. As those winds increase, it just pushes all that smoke and the dust down the gorge, over the Cascades, and now throughout the entire length of the Willamette Valley, and now reaching even over onto the Oregon coast at this time. This is going to continue overnight tonight. So high wind warning is now up this evening through 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon for the Portland-Vancouver metro area, the Cascades, and portions of the Columbia River Gorge. And again, we also have this area of red you see right here. That is our red flag warning for high fire danger, encompasses most of the area. So top three things to know. Dangerous wind arriving now and continuing overnight tonight. Fire danger both the west and also on the east side of the Cascades is very high. And again, because of all the smoke and the dust, poor air quality across much of the region as well. I have a timeline for you, what to expect and when things begin to wind down. That's about 10 minutes from right now. Lincoln and Deb, it's going to be a rough night ahead. Back over to you.
Okay, we're watching it, Dave. Thank you. And as Dave said, these winds could fuel already existing fires in Oregon and Southwest Washington. Let's take a look at the active fires happening right now. And crews hope they don't have to add any more to the map before the wind dies down. K2's Allison Mechanic joins us from Troutdale, where a new fire has just broken out. What are you seeing, Allison?
Well, Deb, we were actually on our way to Crown Point, and we noticed smoke while we were driving on 84, so we pulled off, and this is what we ended up seeing. We're right off of 84 in Troutdale, and we are seeing crews from Gresham and Portland now focusing their attention on a building off of the side of the railroad tracks over here. There's a lot of smoke, and we have seen several flames pop up, especially right on the ground. We're seeing some flames there, but there's a lot of crews on hand trying to put all of this out. We are feeling a lot of that powerful wind that Dave was talking about just a few minutes ago, and it's because of that wind and the dry conditions that we've been experiencing lately why we have a red flag warning in our area and why we are starting to see some fires pop up. Now, this fire that we're at right now, this isn't the first one that we've seen today. We already saw one fire in Newburgh. That was a brush fire, and that was earlier this morning. Crews were able to extinguish that fire quickly, but again, it's an example of just how easy it is for fires to start in these conditions. Wildland team members with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue say winds can also impact power, and they're asking everyone to be aware for the rest of today as well as tomorrow.
We need people to be aware that there could be a significant increase in fire activity. Any structure fire we get with wind basically feeds the fire.
agencies are also asking people to take outdoor warnings seriously. They're saying to limit any outdoor activity that could spark a wildfire, and that includes operating vehicles off-road or in tall grass, grilling or cooking food outside, and lighting any small recreational fires in the backyard. Now, back out here at the scene right now, again, we're seeing Gresham Fire Department, also Portland Fire Department out here, all responding to the area. There are several crews on the ground, but again, we're seeing a lot of smoke come up from this building, and there are definitely still flames that we're seeing down in the bottom. Now, coming up a little bit later on KATU News at 6, we're going to share what we learned from Portland General Electric and what they're saying about how power could be impacting some neighbors in the Mount Hood area. Live in Troutdale, Allison Mechanic, KATU News.
All right, Allison, we'll check back in with you. Thank you. Right now, there's a level 2 be ready evacuation notice for the Elkhorn community. We want to show you that affected area. The Marion County Sheriff's Office says the Beachy Creek fire is posing significant danger. That is now more than 500 acres. There's also a level 2 evacuation notice for the Brighton Bush Hot Springs and Devil's Creek community because of the Lion's Head fire. That's now more than 18,000 acres, and about 2,000 acres. It grew about that much overnight. Right now, it is about 30% contained. A fire at Mount Hood Meadows is estimated to be around 2 acres. Although it is small, wind could make for some dangerous conditions. The Timberline Trail is closed between Timberline Lodge and Cloud Cab. The Elk Meadow Trail is also closed.
And again, a reminder for people living along Highway 26 near Mount Hood. Portland General Electric says there is a potential they'll shut off power to this area to reduce the risk of fire. No final decision's been made, but PGE says customers should have been notified if they were in the area that their power could be shut off.
We want to show you another live look in the gorge. Right now, this is that fire that Allison Mechanic was just telling us about at the entrance to the gorge there. Stay with us as we continue to monitor fire conditions across Oregon and Southwest Washington. We'll have more information in this show and at 6 and 11. You can always find the latest information at KATU.com.
Well, Portland Fire, they're investigating a shooting that injured one man in southeast Portland. It happened about 2 hours ago in the Powellhurst-Gilbert neighborhood on Southeast 105th. This is Portland police, actually. The person was taken to the hospital. No arrests have been made. We'll be sure to keep you updated as we learn more. And to the unrest in Portland, 15 people were arrested last night into this morning during a protest in northeast Portland. The crowd marched from Alberta Park to the North Police Precinct. One group set a mattress on fire that was put out by firefighters shortly after. The majority of the crowd dispersed by 1 a.m.
Police say they confiscated several homemade weapons, including a dish soap bottle with a wick, a glass jar filled with flammable liquid, a slingshot, along with a baton and stun guns. Well, police made dozens of arrests over the weekend. Several Molotov cocktails were even thrown toward officers on Saturday. One person apparently caught fire because of it. What does the escalation mean, though? K2's Kelly Ozair is live in Northeast Portland. What could this mean for the movement, Kelly?
Well, we're at a bit of a crossroads, as it seems. According to one sociologist here in Portland, Portland really could be a leader for the change that so many people have been asking for, but he says they have to do it right. Things continue to escalate in Portland. Now 102 days into protests and riots, the weekend showed no signs of slowing down. Dramatic video caught a rioter throwing a Molotov cocktail towards police. One person's feet even catching on fire.
And until we have some serious resolution around this issue, I think it's going to continue and be that tense and be frightening for a lot of people.
Randy Blazak is a sociologist. He says Portland has an opportunity, but says in order to really grasp that opportunity, protesters need to reel in their message. If they do that, he says Portland could lead the way for change.
So in a weird way, Portland may set the stage for the rest of the country about what's next in terms of reform, in terms of protest styles.
And coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, we look into how all of this could play into the election. For now, we're reporting live in Southeast Portland. Kelly Ozair, KATU News.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, more than 100 days in, we're seeing the costs of protests rise. Specifically, we're digging into some of what police are spending to get a handle on the nightly demonstrations. Thousands of dollars for munitions, for fencing. K2's Keaton Thomas is live for us tonight. What did you find out, Keaton?
Well, in the past, Deb, we've told our viewers about how much Portland police had spent on some of the crowd control munitions that they often use at night, including some of the chemical riot agents that we've seen as well. And I found that some of the spending on that has continued since our last report. And I also found that the city spent tens of thousands of dollars on fencing that was standing for less than a week.
Night in and night out, we see a face-off between Portland police and protesters. 2 months ago, we told you how the Portland Police Bureau spent tens of thousands of dollars on crowd control munitions just days after the protests began at the end of May. That included roughly $20,000 on chemical riot agents. Since then, KATU has learned that spending continued. According to documents provided through a records request, Portland police spent another $20,000 on munitions in mid-June. That includes pepper spray, pepper balls, and 260 canisters of this tear gas, which cost more than $8,000 total. Those purchases continue despite ongoing criticism of how police have handled nightly demonstrations. Records are also showing that the city has spent on fencing. At the beginning of June, the mayor's office said Portland spent about $30,000 for a wooden fence that surrounded City Hall. That fence was taken down shortly after being installed. The police bureau spent at least $40,000 on their fencing. You may remember it around Chapman and Lounsdale squares in mid-July. PPB rented it from Superior Fencing and racked up, according to records, a $35,000 bill. More than $20,000 of that bill was for damages to the equipment.
Now, I asked Portland Police for comment on some of these expenses, both last week and again today. I haven't yet heard back. Coming up at 6 o'clock, though, we look at how much police have spent in overtime. It's millions of dollars. So how much is it this year, and how does it compare to a normal year? But for now, we're live in Northeast Portland. Keaton Thomas, KATU News.
All right, Keaton, thank you. Vancouver police are investigating a hit and run that left one man in the hospital. It happened Saturday night after a memorial for Aaron J. Danielson, the man who was shot and killed in Portland last weekend. He was downtown supporting a President Trump caravan that was driving through the city. KATU News spoke to the brother of Shane Moon, the man who was hit by a truck Saturday night. He told us his brother was at Charlie's Bar and Grill celebrating after Danielson's memorial when another man came in and started heckling his group of friends. The man was eventually told to leave. Once Moon left, police say the other man hit him with his truck. His brother says he flew 10 feet in the air and hit the roof of the truck. Now he is calling for an end to the violence.
This is a crazy world we live in, and to be able to just go out and hit somebody and drive off and think that that's okay, that's not okay. We need to start bringing some peace and holding these people accountable for their actions.
His brother says Moon suffered a brain bleed and has several fractures. Police are still looking for that suspect.
As you guys know, a brother of mine, Jay Danielson, his life was taken the other day. If he was alive, he'd be here standing amongst you right here, right now. But I'm here to declare I believe in God, and I know that Jay's spirit is still alive.
A crowd of President Trump supporters remembering Aaron J. Danielson happened after another Trump rally drove through the city. Today's event was held in Oregon City. The group showed their support not just for the president, but also law enforcement. Speaker after speaker paid tribute to Danielson.
I was in that rally. I was 50 cars away when that murder happened. It was so heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking. But he's in a better place now.
The shooting suspect, Michael Reinell, was shot and killed by police last Thursday in Lacey, Washington.
We want to show you another live look at this brush fire in Troutdale. Allison Mechanic was telling us about this. Just a few flames right there right now, but we're keeping a close eye on this. And again, we've issued a storm tracker weather alert. We have a closer look at fire dangers when we come back. Stay with us.